welcome back, everybody, to I'll Hang Up and Listen, brought to you. What's going on here? Hold on. Welcome back, everybody, to Get rid of that. Welcome back, everybody, to I'll Hang Up and Listen, brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, Western New York's premier market and tap room, with over 300 beers to choose from at all of their Western New York locations. They have 6 different Western New York locations. I couldn't highly suggest any more of the FIA mango wheat beer. Some great stuff going on over at Fatty Beer. Check out the puckluck.com tournament that we're doing right now that we're involved with. Made my my prop bet today, going head to head with Nate Geary, bartender down at the Buffalo location. You know better as one of the radio personalities over at WGR. Going head to head with him. I picked Kyle Connor, anytime goal scorer, for my bet to go to head. I think might have taken Dallas money line. I think I'm going head to head with him. So we'll see how that goes. But check that out. A lot of cool stuff going on over at with Fatty Beer. Here to recap the Kevyn Adams and Lindy Ruff end of season press conference. Definitely a lot to unpack. You got, they probably went for about an hour, which is surprisingly long. I didn't think they would go for that amount of time, but they definitely a lot to unpack, and we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that right now. We're gonna kick things off right away with the Elliot Friedman comments on his podcast that was released this morning. Elliot Friedman, hit it. It was about a 3-minute clip. We tweeted it out from Two Goalies, One Mic earlier today. But to make a long story short, essentially, I think the biggest thing to come out of that was that he has heard there are teams around the league that believe UPL may be available for trade, which is kind of crazy. Just having listened to their, there's some contradictory there, and we have that would be the first time we've heard some contradictory things coming out of between obviously what's coming from the Sabres and a guy like Elliot Friedman. But Elliot Friedman has said he has heard from around the league, and I mean, this is the guy is essentially the Adam Schefter of the NHL. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of, if you're getting information that's coming from Adam Schefter, it's probably good information. Well, he has heard that there is a good chance that UPL might be available for trade. Given the season that he's having, he had a below 900 save percentage year. He had it's like a 3.2 or a 3.3 goals against average. Not good enough. We've talked about that plenty here on I'll Hang Up and Listen and Two Goalies, One Mic. It has not been good enough. And I think that during the press conference, they definitely defended UPL quite a bit in terms of his play. It's obviously you want more. It wasn't good enough, but and Lindy was very passionate about looking to the team in front of him that wasn't good enough. I believe, when I wrote down, Lindy believes in UPL and referred right to the poor play in front of him throughout this season as a reason why the team failed in that area, or UPL failed ultimately this season. Hey, listen, we talked about it with Mike Harrington. We talked about it with on I'll Hang Up and Listen to me and Connor multiple times. He's only in year one, or he just got out of year one of his 5-year deal of making $4.75 million. Do I find it hard to believe they'll give up on him before year 2 even kicks in? Yeah, I do. But this is Elliot Friedman saying that there are teams that believe he could be available. Now, could that just be teams talking? Like, oh yeah, we have to think that he might be available. It could be just talk. But we'll see. But going back to UPL, that was definitely a hot button topic a couple times throughout the press conference about his play this season, about, if they plan on improving there, do they plan on riding into next year with UPL and Devin Levi? That was a topic too. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Listen, on another thing brought up on this podcast was Lindy's voice within the franchise and how much it's respected. Terry Pegula believes in Lindy Ruff. Hence why I think there's so much confidence in his job and him still being the head coach next season. And listen, they weren't just going to fire one of the most beloved coaches in Sabres history after one season. Just wasn't going to happen. They could have won 20 games this season. It wasn't going to happen. But I think that I think that based off the reaction to some of the questions too, there will be some changes in that coaching staff around him. You have Seth Appert, you have Marty Wilford, you have Matt Ellis. I have to believe that staff is going to change around Lindy Ruff. When asked about that, they didn't really commit to keeping anybody outside of Lindy. They just kind of said we're gonna look into that and we're gonna do everything we can to improve this team. And so that kind of tells me that come next week we're gonna hear they're gonna be looking for new assistant coaches. You heard about the firing of Laviolette and one of his associate coaches today, and you have to imagine they didn't mention Pekka. Maybe they'll let Pekka, Michael Pekka, former Sabre alumni, former. He was on the coaching staff with Rochester and was going to what we would have expected to have been on this coaching staff until, there was some, I'm not going to say it was drama, but he essentially was passed up to have a job on the bench for Matt Ellis. But also he was offered a job as an assistant with a coach that he used to play for when he was the captain of the Islanders with Peter Laviolette. So, even it might have been still tough for him to pass up that opportunity with Laviolette, even if he would have an opportunity on Buffalo's bench. Who knows? But if he doesn't get that job with the Rangers, which I don't know. Yeah. Will they hire a first-time head coach in New York? I don't know. If there is a guy that could convince Michael Pekka to come coach with him as an associate coach or an assistant coach in Buffalo, it's going to be Lindy Ruff, the guy who also he was Lindy Ruff's captain for a few years. So I could totally see that as well. Another thing that was brought up too about structure changes within the front office in Buffalo. Elliot Friedman mentioned that he believes that there will be some front office changes, maybe not directly, obviously, with Kevyn Adams. He didn't insinuate that, but around Kevyn Adams. Now, when you say front office, what are we talking about? Are we talking about, scouting, analytics department? What exactly does he mean by front office? He didn't say that maybe Kevin's job title could change, meaning he might not be the GM anymore. Maybe he takes a position. I know Kevin, I know Terry Pegula has been against a president of hockey operations, but maybe if it was Kevyn Adams, maybe that changes and they bring in a new GM hired by Kevin, a more experienced GM. That's very, very, very possible. I wouldn't doubt that, but again, we'll see. I would have to believe that there is I would have to believe, judging from that press conference, that they are going to take everything into consideration. He said multiple times, whatever they have to do to make this team better heading into next season, they are open to all options. So, Kevyn Adams' future. I felt that Kevin sounded more confident about his future last year than he did this year. Last year he was more last year Kevyn was more animated. This wasn't good enough. We need to be better. And he was this today too, but he just wasn't as animated. He was a little more reserved about some of the things he said. I felt, at least. He mentioned a couple times, I'll know more, when I talk to Terry next week. But the one thing I took from it was the only guy out of two guys on that, at that podium this morning whose job was secure was in fact Lindy Ruff. Definitely no security was guaranteed for Kevyn Adams. And we've seen crazier things. We've seen Terry Pegula, and Kim Pegula express their confidence in Jason Botterill, and then a week later they fired him, or 2 weeks later they fired him, based off differences and theories on how to run the team. If you guys just excuse me one moment, a little noise over here. 1 second. There we go. Sorry about that. It's a little background noise I did get rid of. My dog laid on the remote of the TV, I think, and turned it up a lot louder. But Kevyn Adams, I felt, was not as confident in, say, his future as GM of this team as he was, say, last year, the year before that. But here's the thing. I just can't see Kevyn Adams not being the GM, because it would be pretty much malpractice to allow him to make a trade for a guy like Josh Norris, trading a guy away like Dylan Cousins, who you put a lot of faith in when you signed into that contract, who has performed pretty well, at least offensively. I don't know what the deep analytics say about him, but he has 16 points since becoming an Ottawa Senator, compared to the 3 games played for Josh Norris. I find it hard to believe that you would allow him to make that trade with a guy that was part of the core like Dylan Cousins, if you just plan on giving him the axe in the offseason. That is just my opinion. But again, he didn't sound as confident in his future with as GM of this team as he has in the past. We'll see. I imagine we'll get all of that news next week, as Kevyn said a couple times during that press conference, that he will he will sit down with Terry, whom he says he talks to every day, and decide on the future. And he did take again, and this was something we've heard so many times from him before. I believe that it's all the same old stuff we've heard from him in the past. It's on me to make this team better. Like, that's speak. It's like we've heard this too many times, and we're sick and tired of hearing it as fans. I don't know how you guys feel. So we got some comments here in the peanut gallery. I'll pull them up right now. Everything to improve the team. Kevyn Adams is still GM. Kevyn Adams teams have digressed every year he has been GM, it means Pegula has been nickel and diming this organization. And that's another thing too. I want to bring up in terms of, the money. It was brought up a couple times throughout this thing. Spending to the cap. I think Mike Harrington was the one who asked about evolving as a GM. He brought it up with us on Two Goalies, One Mike. Evolving as a general manager for the Buffalo Sabres. And that goes in part is when the team struggles and you have losing streaks, like a couple of years ago with the 8-game losing streak, this season with the 13-game losing streak, being able to evolve and make the right in-season moves as a GM to not let things get out of hand as badly as they did. Because you keep pointing directly to that 13-game losing streak, and that's the part of one of the biggest reasons why you missed the playoffs for a 14th year in a row. And I have to agree, but a lot of the teams that are in the playoffs that are starting tonight, most of those teams are maybe $1 or $2 million away from spending to the cap. Whereas Buffalo is, and the excuses used in the past, and Harrington brought it up too, was, you have to take in consideration the future contracts. You have to leave room in the cap to do that. Well, you're not paying Jack Quinn. I don't know what you're going to be paying Devin Levi if he's going to be here next year, if he's going to still be in Rochester. Maybe you sign him to a 3-year deal with the first year being a 2-way deal and the second and third being a 1-way. That's very possible. We've seen that in the past. I have to think that you can't go into this offseason with the same mindset. And he said that. I think it sound like, whether it's out of common sense or desperation, it sounds like he is more, there's going to be more willingness to spend more money and get closer to the cap because, he has a better idea, I guess, on, who he's going to be paying and who he has to pay. You have JJ Peterka, who's an RFA, who's looking to be at a big deal, which I imagine based on, whether those are mistakes he made in the past or whether, he's going to look at what he's done with Owen Power and I guess to a certain extent, former Sabre Dylan Cousins and Tage Thompson. You look at JJ Peterka, he's one of the few guys that they have developed, that player that they drafted that has developed very well. Again, damn near close to 30 goals this season. I'm not sure if he, had a career year. I can't remember. I don't know his point output this year compared to last, but I think that judging from the season he had and the season before, you would be comfortable probably paying him anywhere from $7-8 million a year. How could you not? The player he is turned into, and that's, my opinion, a very important piece to the future of this team and getting this team to the playoffs. You have Bowen Byram. Bowen Byram was brought up during this press conference. Bowen Byram, today during his exit interview with the media, mentioned that he for sure wants to stay here. He looks forward to the process of being an RFA and looking to sign an extension, and he looks like he's more than happy to continue his career with the Buffalo Sabres. And as he stated, and Kevyn Adams he didn't commit to Bowen Byram, but he said he had an excellent year, and he's very open to bringing back Bowen Byram, considering after I guess they do a deep dive into their situation on the blue line and where he fits in and where they have to add. Obviously, we know where they have to add. They need another right-handed shot defenseman, somebody to play with Owen Power. Maybe they do offer Bowen Byram a deal, and he does continue to play with Rasmus Dahlin where he excelled. Whereas when he didn't play with Rasmus Dahlin, the numbers, at least the underlying numbers, weren't that great. Weren't nearly as good as at least when he did play with Dahlin. So, but you could say that about anybody who plays with Dahlin because he just makes everybody better. You're looking at a defenseman who could potentially be a Norris candidate defenseman every season. So it does sound like they're very open to bringing back Bowen Byram. I'm not sure how most of you feel about that or I feel about it. I think that they desperately need a stay-at-home right-handed shot defenseman. You look at other deals that were signed around the league. You got Pionk and the deal he got, amongst other defensemen, and you're probably looking at paying Bowen Byram at least $8 million a year. That's probably the number. You're looking at probably something close to the Owen Power contract. Can you afford to pay him that kind of money on top of everything else? And still add to your blue line a right-handed shot defenseman who's going to make you guys better, because you cannot go a fourth off season in a row without figuring that out, right? Like you can't. No way. So that's obviously in terms of RFAs. You have Devin Levi too coming up on his RFA year after his entry-level contract. What's he going to make? I can't imagine, as much as I love the kid, like not a lot. He in order to get that big paycheck. His season isn't over yet either, and they talked about that quite a bit too. Mike Carrington asked his thoughts on Devin Levi and whether he still has important hockey left to play, whether it's 5 games or he's playing into June in the AHL playoffs, chasing a Calder Cup. We do know they just recently sent down 3 players, including Yuri Kulik, to make that team a potential powerhouse. That's a team that could really win a championship this year, and a team we're going to cover throughout this offseason and have fun with it, because there are some guys, Kulik and Devin Levi included, that we're going to be paying attention to. But they brought that up Your thoughts on Devin Levi and, how he's dominated in the AHL, and Kevyn Adams showed a high amount of confidence in Devin and his ability to be a very good goalie in this league, at some point, but continue to develop. And he pretty much said the choice is Devin Levi's, taking this opportunity right now in the playoffs, kind of taking the bull by the horns and excelling in pressure situations, much like he did last year. He played very well in the playoffs for Rochester last year, and the team just wasn't nearly as good then as it is now. He couldn't get the support that he needed in order to get that team over the hump, and he played fantastic. So this year is going to be much different. You have the players and the ability to make a real run at a championship for a Calder Cup, which would be fantastic and exciting. I want to say they might have won one, or at least went to a finals, had a finals appearance back when Steve Shields was with Rochester. I think I could be wrong, but that was commented on a lot. But there was a lot of confidence put in UPL between both Kevyn Adams and Lindy Ruff, and Kevin said that he fully expects UPL to bounce back next season. I love that. I'd love to show the glowing support for Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen as much as they do, but I don't know. Last year was his first real good year at pro. He wasn't nearly good enough this year. It's not like defensively they were so much better last year when he was playing well than they were this year. Listen, I don't know the underlying numbers, but can you show me how good they were defensively last year compared to this year? You had essentially the same defenseman. I don't know. I have a hard time believing that the UPL we got last year had so much worse of a team in front of him this year than last. I don't know. It was the same players essentially. But it's gonna be fun to watch Devin Levi chase a championship in Rochester, and it sounds like they have a lot of confidence, and there's a lot of excitement between both Lindy Ruff and Kevyn Adams and Devin Levi. So we'll see. But that the one thing that stuck with me the most, I think again, it might have been Harrington that mentioned it, was how confident are you with going into next season with UPL and Devin Levi as your tandem? They are confident that they are confident in both of those goaltenders, but there's going to be a big emphasis on just getting better in front of them. And they're still open to improving in that. So there's no guaranteeing that that'll be the tandem. It could be maybe UPL does get traded, like Elliot Friedman said on his podcast. Maybe that does end up happening. Maybe you do go get Jake Allen. Maybe you do go trade for Thatcher Demko. Maybe you do RFA a goalie like that Hoffer kid in St. Louis. Who knows what's going to happen? I do find it hard to believe that the tandem will be Devin Levi and UPL. I think you have a lot of angry fans if that's the direction they decide to go in. So my guess is it'll be UPL and fill in the blank. It's not. I don't think it'll be James Reimer. I think it'd be ridiculous to go into this next season with James Reimer again at 38 years old. But maybe it will be a guy like Jake Allen, or they trade UPL for a goalie like, say, I don't know, Thatcher Demko, or they sign Jake Allen, or they trade UPL for a piece that comes back that helps their blue line or helps them offensively, and they go sign a veteran goaltender and have Devin Levi be the backup. I don't know. We'll see when the playoffs end and how they approach free agency. So some more comments here. A 50-goal scorer in Reinhart traded for an AHL goaltender. Great move, Kevin. Idiot Pagula paid $1.6 billion for the Bills. They're worth no less than $5 billion today. Idiot Terry Pagula. I don't really know where you're going with it all, Jack. It seems like you're taking shots at the organization with them praising Pagula. I don't really know. Who played better last year, Reinhart or Levi? That trade wraps this joke franchise. He didn't want to be here, dude. He didn't want to be here. He wanted out. What? I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you weren't happy that the 21-year-old goaltender didn't live up to the expectations that what did you want from him? He was 21 when he was 20 when that trade was made. Like, did you expect Devin Levi to come in and just be this all-star goalie right out of the gate? No. Ryan Miller didn't come into the league until he was 25 years old. He had 160 games played in the AHL. Anybody who thought Devin Levi was going to come in day one and just be the savior of the team, I'm sorry, you're mistaken. That was never going to be a thing. It was never going to be a thing. You were always going to have to develop him just like you do any other goaltender. Look what Calgary did with Dustin Wolf, and their fans have to be ecstatic about what they have about the future for them in net. Have to be. I don't understand. So you trade him for an AHL. Was he a 50 goal scorer? Was he a 50 goal scorer with Buffalo? No, he wasn't. Obviously, if he had that type of a season with Buffalo, yeah, that trade looks even worse. I'm sorry. But you want to know what? It kind of helps playing with Sasha Barkov quite a bit. Does it not? Playing with a guy, one of the best playmaking two-way centers in the league in Barkov. Guys like Matthew Tkachuk. Guys like Carter Verhaeghe. You don't have those guys in Buffalo. So, yeah, he definitely benefits from that. Sam Bennett, too. Great defenseman like Aaron Ekblad has been for them. Forsling, their team is so deep. Oh, God. You never scored 50 with us. You keep saying you keep saying you traded Devin Levi for a 50. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. He didn't score 50 goals with us. Oh, God. And neither him nor Eichel wanted to be here. What did you like? I don't understand that talking point, Jack. Like, what is that? I'm looking in the chat. What is that talking point? Remember Eichel? Yeah, I remember it pretty vividly. He also didn't want to come back. We lost all leverage with that for a return. Oh. I don't know. I'm getting off the goaltending topic right now, though, because I'm sorry, you're pissed that you traded away Sam Reinhart, the 50 goal scorer, who wasn't a 50 goal scorer when we traded him, because he went to a much better team, even though we had Eichel here. No, he didn't. Hold on, I'm pulling this up right now. No, he did not want to return. He requested a trade a year before that. No, he didn't. He even admitted to it in an interview with Elliot Friedman. Why do you think we paid $8 million for one season at Taylor Hall? Because Jack Eichel requested a trade. He admitted to it. He didn't want to be here anymore a year before he hurt his neck. He didn't want to be here anymore. He requested a trade, which reactionary. We went and signed Taylor Hall, and we scored 2 goals for us. 2 goals. How did I go off on this tangent right now? Stop it. Just stop it with that. He didn't want to be here before the neck was even ever a thing. He did not want to be here. He requested a trade 2 different times. The first time, a year and a half after we made him captain, 2 years after we made him the highest paid player in franchise history. Him wanting out had nothing to do with the neck because he had already asked to be traded 1 time before that. So stop. And he had Jack Eichel. Sam Reinhart had Jack Eichel, and he still never scored 50 goals. So who would you rather have if you have Sam Reinhart on your team? Jack Eichel or Barkov and Tkachuk or Verhaeghe and all of the players that made up that Stanley Cup winning hockey team last season? I'll take the guys on Florida that turn him into a 50 goal scorer. So stop. Oh. Why do players want out? Because the management of this team is awful. That's why. When did I ever say I would rather have Devin Levi? Do I like that we have Devin Levi? Yeah, because I think he's going to be a fantastic goaltender. Why are you making this a Levi versus Reinhart conversation? That trade was 2.5 years ago, bro. Why is it like, I'm sorry that you're upset about that trade, but we have Devin Levi now. Did I ever say once that I wanted Devin Levi over Sam Reinhart? Anybody in their right mind wouldn't want that because Sam Reinhart has a Stanley Cup ring and is a did he score 50 goals this season too? I don't think he did. But still, like, get out of here with that. The trade happened, bro. The trade happened. What is your point? You're the one that's not making any sense in the chat. I don't even know where you're going with it. No idea where you're going with it. I'm arguing with a person I don't know in the chat right now. I don't even want to see the comments anymore because that's ridiculous. Somebody complaining about a trade that took place 2.5 years ago, like it has any bearing on next season at all. You have the players you have. You have Devin Levi, who is arguably, not even arguably, the best goaltender in your organization right now. He's the best goalie in the AHL. He is probably going to potentially lead them to a championship in the AHL this year and probably be pushed to have a spot on this team next year. And you're still upset about Sam Reinhart. I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you. Would I rather have Sam Reinhart scoring 50 goals for the Sabres? Yes, absolutely I would. But guess what? He never scored 50 goals for the Sabres with Jack Eichel. So clearly he went to a better situation in Florida. A much better situation in Florida, which in turn turned him into a 50-goal scorer. So I don't understand where. I gotta stop. I'm gonna stop. Moving on. Jiri Kulich. That was also a big topic multiple times during the press conference. His rookie season, his relationship with Jason Zucker, which was talked about yesterday by Zucker and how excited he is to continue playing with him and helping him develop. Obviously, we know Jiri Kulich was sent down to Rochester. To help them put them over the top for their push for a Calder Trophy. But he had a great rookie year. He ended up centering the top line for the last 20 games of the season. And it could be said, even said by Zucker, that a big reason why Thompson got on that heater at the end of the year and scored over 40 goals this season was because of the play of Jiri Kulich and his development. And Lindy Ruff mentioned moving him from the wing to center and how valuable that was to both of those two players specifically. What he has brought to this team and the future of this team again, and they talked about Zucker and how he was kind of attached at Kulich's hip for part of this season, whether it was talking to him on the bench, talking in the locker room in practice during games. And that's so valuable too, to get off the Kulich side. I mean, Zucker, a guy like Zucker who stepped in and recognized the ability, the need for a guy like him for Jiri Kulich and how it maybe took him to the next level here as a rookie and how excited we're going to be to have him next year, potentially, maybe even explode. We'll see. I'm excited for sure, but there's a lot of excitement around Jiri Kulich and the year he had and his future. When talking about the depth at center, they said that they would be okay with having Norris and Kulich be your top two centermen, and then obviously you have McLeod and probably Krebs at your bottom two. But they're still open to improving there too. They're not set in stone that those are your top two guys because, and Lindy even mentioned, he piggybacking off those points that it's easier to move a center to wing than it is to move a wing to center in terms of the responsibilities that centerman has. And Jiri Kulich bounced back and forth between center and wing this year, and he performed very well, but much better at center. So he performed extremely well as your top line center with Tage on his wing. And, again, they mentioned how much he contributed to the late season surge that Tage went on. So that was a big talking point. One of the positives for sure, and how excited they are for him. Again, going back to the Zucker point, like Zucker helped him move into his apartment, did a lot of things with him off the ice. deep conversations with him, that helped him feel more comfortable here at the NHL level. So that was a positive thing. And then going back to Zucker again, the need for more veterans on this team. Yes, everybody's a year older. Everybody is a year wiser and a year more experienced, but this team does need another veteran. But in terms of veteran, you don't say that and be like, oh, we go get a guy like Kyle Okposo, who's just been around the league forever, and maybe he has a Stanley Cup ring on his finger, and like, no, they need veterans, but a veteran that's going to contribute offensively or defensively. That was one thing that they mentioned multiple times, was that they need to secure another veteran or two for next season, but they can't just be any guy that's there for locker room vibes and culture. They need to be somebody that's going to help contribute to the team and the success of the team every single night on the score sheet. So that was another positive thing I saw from this this end of season press conference as well. The need for veterans, and I think that's going to be a focal point for sure in free agency, or maybe even the trade market. We'll see. Alex Tuch is another one. There is going to be a huge priority in signing Alex Tuch this offseason come July 1st. The season he had, now he's a single season record holder for most block shots by a forward, possibly the best penalty killer forward-wise in the entire National Hockey League. He was fantastic for them. He might have been one of the most important forwards this season. Maybe even as important as Tage. His ability to kill penalties, score goals, be good 5-on-5, block shots, play well defensively. In all three zones, he excelled this season. He's going to be, you can't let that guy, you can't not sign this guy this offseason. Come July 1st, he should be signed. You would hope for a hometown discount, but he's going to be making $8 million or more a year. No doubt about it. He was very underpaid for the performances he gave Buffalo since the Jack Eichel trade. He's been nothing short of fantastic. So, I have to imagine, taking into consideration that Kevyn Adams is still the GM, which for all intents and purposes, it does sound like he will be. Even though, again, he didn't sound extremely confident that he will be. At least not as confident as he has the previous 2 years. Assuming that he is, that is going to be a number one priority for them come July 1st, is to extending Alex Tuch, who could justifiably wear a captaincy just as much as Dahlin on this team. No doubt about it. I think that, you're going to see him July 1st signed to an 8-year deal. And, we as fans should be excited about that. That if they let that guy walk after next season, pack your shit, because I don't longer care. All the narrative that you want players that want to be here. Clearly, Alex Tuch has even said it himself. He wants to be here and he wants to win in Buffalo. You don't sign that guy. You don't come to terms with that guy. Pack your shit as a fan, because this franchise truly does not care at all. That's all I really have. I wasn't really planning on going on that little Levi Reinhart tangent with Jack here in the chat, but it happened. So, but overall, looking at that press conference, I heard a lot of the same shit we've heard in the past. At the end of the day, it's on me. It's my fault. I have to be better, from Kevyn Adams, blah, blah, blah. It's the same stuff we've heard in the past. These same exact shit we've heard in the past. But I would have to believe that the pressure is on. The pressure is absolutely on this offseason to get this team to a point where you can confidently call them a playoff team. I know it's difficult because there is this narrative around the league that it's tough to get players to want to sign in Buffalo. But listen, money talks, bullshit walks, right? I think this is a good free agent class. We'll see if Marner even makes it to the free agent market. I could even see him pulling something like he did with what Stamkos did originally with Tampa Bay when, we thought for sure, we thought Tim Murray was going to sign Steven Stamkos. And then at 5 to midnight, it doesn't happen. He resigns long-term with Tampa Bay. A lot of questions. I have more questions than I think we got answers here from this press conference. I'm not really sure exactly what I was expecting, having listened to it and then listen back to it. But the things that did stick out to me again the most were that Tuck will be a priority in terms of culture, bringing in veterans, but veterans that are going to contribute, not just veterans that are going to be there to help develop young players, guys that are going to contribute, much like the way Zucker did this season for Buffalo. They're extremely excited about the season Yuri Kulik had. When it comes to UPL, it seems that both Kevyn Adams and Lindy Ruff do have confidence in him, which kind of contradicts the reports, I guess you can call them report from Elliotte Friedman on his podcast this morning that other teams have heard that UPL could be available for trade this offseason. So both those things kind of contradict each other, but straight from the horse's mouth, Kevyn Adams and Lindy Ruff, they both have confidence in UPL, but they more or less believe that they believe that the real issue is the play in front of them. And it doesn't matter who's in net, whether it's Devin Levi or Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. They mentioned that there is a ton of excitement around Devin Levi and what he's about to hopefully do with Rochester here as they make a run at a championship in the second best league in the hockey league in the world, mind you. And just because you don't follow the AHL doesn't mean that's not important. We had Olaf Kolzig on this show last week, one of the best goalies of his time. And he mentioned how important it is to play well and succeed at the AHL level and how much playing well at the AHL meant to his career and him becoming the goaltender he ultimately became. We know how much that meant to Ryan Miller. Ryan Miller has been very vocal about it. Then that 160 games he played in Rochester, how important that was to him becoming a good NHL goaltender, learning at that level to become a superstar at the NHL in terms of goaltending. So that'll be exciting. No, the KHL is not the best league the second best league in the world. It is not. No, it's not. Nope. No, it's not. Not a shot. Nope. You can believe that all you want. It is not the second best league in the world. No way. And other things we took from it, again, obviously that Lindy Ruff is very secured. Lindy Ruff will be the head coach of this team next year. There was no doubt left about that. As far as Kevyn Adams goes, Kevyn Adams will be meeting with Terry Pegula next week, to talk about what went wrong and his vision for this team going forward. And we'll see what happens because, again, I mentioned earlier, we've heard this ownership offer support to a GM in the past and then fire him 2 weeks later. So we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. Mike Harrington, again, on with us this past week, mentioned that Terry Pegula doesn't want anybody who's going to challenge the way he wants this team to be run. Hence why I think Kevyn Adams was hired to begin with, because he's ultimately a yes man. And that was the reason why ultimately that Jason Botterill was fired, because he had a certain way that he wanted to run the team, and it didn't coincide with the way Pegula wanted the team run, and pack your shit. That's what happened. And then spending to the cap, that was another big thing too. That sounds like they're going to be more willing to spend to the cap this offseason. You see a lot of the teams that are competing in the playoffs starting today. Most of them have spent relatively very close to the cap ceiling, within $1 to $2 million, whereas Buffalo wasn't even close. And with the cap going up, that should give you even more incentive to spend and spend and spend. You can't go 15 years without making the playoffs, man. Just can't. No way. Just want to remind you guys, this is all brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, Western New York's premier American tap room, with over 300 beers to choose from at 6 different Western New York locations. If you need a beer, make sure you make it a Fatty Beer. KHL gets paid millions and the AHL doesn't. That doesn't mean shit. That doesn't mean shit. Okay. Can you name me the best player in the KHL right now? No, you can't. No, you can't. Sorry. They're not the second best league in the league. No chance. It's the AHL. It always will be the AHL. I don't have a clue. Okay. All right. You guys have a good one. Enjoy your weekend. It's WrestleMania weekend. Enjoy for all those that watch, who watch. That's exactly what I'm going to go do right now. Big CM Punk stand here. Big triple threat. You don't have a clue about hockey. Okay. Just dedicated my entire life to it, but no clue. You guys have a good one. I'll hang up and listen. And as always, go Sabres. We'll talk to you probably next week, Tuesday. See you then.